Good morning. It is the eve of the Grand National. Bet365 are doing their offer again, which basically means for every each way pound that you stake, you get 50% of that back, which ultimately means up to £125 in bonus you can get. You really can bet £125 each way for the cost of just £125. I'm going to explain in this video a few horses that might be worth playing, a few concepts that you might want to adopt in terms of using those for betting, but ultimately these are tips for Bet365 account holders. Whether you can get in hold of multiple or not, I don't know, but you'll be able to exploit the offer that they give you to potentially give yourself a decent chance of profit. And there's a few ways of doing that as well. So without further ado, we'll do a bit of screen share. I'll talk about a few horses that I quite like, and then we'll talk about how you might want to play those, different concepts, and then basically just open the door for you to decide what might work best for you. Hopefully, a lot of you have still got Bet365 accounts. If not, you might have friends or family that you might be able to not kindly message and say, do you fancy sticking a few bets on? Not the way that I'm inclined with it, but I remember when working in an office, a few people there used to put bets on for other people. So if you've got that bit where your nan likes to stick her tenner on, if you were to put it on Bet365, her tenner is going to earn you £5 worth of a potentially free bet. It's not really free bets as in the normal concept where you might lose that. It's included in your stake. So basically, as soon as you put the bet on, whatever stake you put it on, half of that amount after the bet's been placed will just be credited straight back to your betting account. And that goes all the way up to £125. Now, it is only for each way selection, so make sure when you're adding them to your bet slip, you are going each way. There's a few other terms and conditions. You can view that all on the Bet365 website. I know I'm talking to a lot of people here that know how to bet. Hopefully this might attract an audience of people that are first-time Grand National punters or are just looking for an angle in that maybe don't know so much about the horse racing. So I'm going to quickly show you a couple of options that you can do within here. And then I'm going to talk about the actual race itself with horses that I fancy. So if you just want to know my concept and the ways that I think you can exploit this money back offer, then we'll do that first anyway. There's no need for you to skip. However, if you do want to hear what I fancy in the race, my breakdown of a few runners that are in there, then stay tuned. That will be coming up too. So without further ado, this is how the Bet365's landing page for a race looks. You have obviously the runners, the jockeys, the trainers. There's bits and pieces of form you can expand within each horse. You can see video replays as well. But in this instance, we're just going to be looking at the different prices that are in here. And we're going to talk about the each way terms because you need to stake each way to get this offer rolling. Now, you can see we've got a short price favourite that's in here, Cloth Cap. We're getting each way a quarter of the odds, 5 places as standard. So there'll be 40 runners in this race, all being well. Only the top 5 places are going to draw you a return back. Now, of course, when this horse is such a short price, if Cloth Cap was to place and not to win, it's a quarter of the odds. He's just over number 5, so you're going to get a slight profit if he does go and place. A lot of people will probably be thinking he's a short price favourite. Let's lump the whole amount onto him. That might be the way that you want to play it, but you know, from your place returns, if he doesn't win, you're only going to make a slight profit out of it, albeit a profit is a profit. You do have the option with each way extra. Now, the normal place terms with Bet365 for this race, although they've been enhanced because BHA rules mean that anything 16 runner plus in a handicap is only 4 places by the letter of the law for a place position. They've boosted it 1 place. If you reduced it back to the standard amount, you're going to see that the prices have changed. They increase slightly there. So because you're putting yourself back to the normal each way terms, you're actually getting a bigger price on the horses because Bet365 and other bookmakers are providing concessions. So in the Bet365 example, if you were only interested in backing win only, admittedly it's the Grand National, lots of people may prefer to look for a bit of each way value. But if you are a punter like me that prefers to back win only, because we're getting the each way part of our stake back, you actually can get away with choosing the fewer places and you get a bigger win price on there. So there's 2 options when you sort of scattergun a race. You can back a handful of horses each way at bigger prices, knowing that of the 5 horses, for example, you may back, 1 or 2 of those is going to draw you a profit if they place. Or you may look at the other option and think, do you know what, I might back 10 horses in this race, but I'm going to back them all to win. So as much as there's places up for grabs, I'm going to back a quarter of the field in the hope that one of those horses does win. And if one of those horses does win, I'm probably going to make a profit. And you can see from the prices that are in here, look, if we were to say we're going to do 10 horses, if Cloth Cap did win, you had a tenner on 10 of them, then yes, you've lost £30. But you could say, do you know what, for him, I'll stick £20 on, and then you're going to have 9 bets on other horses, so you've got £90 left to play with, which puts your stake up to £110. But you'd make £30 profit if Cloth Cap came in, and this is just if you're backing the first odd in the betting. You'd get £60 profit, £40 profit. So not suggesting this is the way to do it, but you could bet the first 10 in the betting for a tenner, and then you've boosted the prices up, so you're getting better value. So, for example, if we go 5 or 6 or 7, 8 down there, say we get Discorama in that's 25s, had you have just bet it normally, for your tenner, you'd have made £60 profit. I'm saying that we've done £20 on cloth cap, 10 on the others, so that's £110 staked instead of 100 off of 10 horses. But if you reduce the place terms, you're actually getting a bigger price. So you're boosting your profit up quite significantly. And the reason why I'm saying reduce those amount is that you're getting half of that stake back for the each way part of it. So this is a bit of a head warp when I'm talking about explaining the price differentials. But if you will still get place money paid from this because you're having to put the each way bet on. But basically, if you deposited the money in to do this, you'd have to, because you're getting half the stakes back, you'd have to put some like smaller stake bets on to build up the amount you want to put on. But if you deposited £110 into your account, you would be able to back all of those horses for £10 each way. And that's basically the way that it goes. So not only are you getting your £110, or if we say £100, you're not only getting your £100 on those 10 horses, you're also getting a free place amount on all those horses, admittedly only for when they come second. But you're boosting the prices, you're getting a little bit of change back if they do place, you're giving yourself a much bigger price. The other perk of doing this, now lots of people know about arbitrary betting, this is where you have no risk. So basically you're backing a horse at a bigger price so you can lay on the exchanges for a shorter price. Now by boosting these prices up to 2 places, you will be backing horses here at probably a bigger price than they are on the Betfair exchange. Now we can quickly peel that in. I'm going to pull up the Betfair exchange and we can have a look at some of the prices in there just to echo what I've said there about taking the bigger prices on a horse by reducing those place terms. And we'll see how that pans out. So as you can see, nice and prepared. Could have had this beforehand. We didn't. It's live. Get used to it. So look, we'll look at the prices. I know I'm going to skip back and forth between a couple of screens, but cloth cap, you can get 6 to 1 on here, so 7.0. He's 6.6 to lay. You always want to look at the lay prices because as much as this is what you'd back it at, this is what you'd have to lay it at. Burrows Saint is 14 to lay. You can get 17. So if you had tenors on these, you could lay Burrows Saint for the tenor. You'd be laying for a liability of 140, but you'd be backing for a profit or total amount back of 170. That's £30. That's 20%. You could withdraw off of that. Manila Times is 15 on the bet makers or the sports book, 12.5 there. So 2.5 points you could do it with. Who else have we got? Any Second Now, 17s. Any Second Now's 15, so you could get another 2 points off of that. Kimberlite Candy, 20s on here. Kimberlite Candy, 19s on here, another 2 points. You can see my point I'm making. If you're that way inclined and you just want to buy some money, this is what you can do. You can put your money into Bet365 and you can back these horses. Now, admittedly, when we get further and further down the field, those price golfs might change quite a bit. So let's go right down the bottom of the list. Ami Dubois, friend of mine's got this horse. What a day out it is for those. But 170 you could boost this horse up to if you did it the 2 places. If we go all the way down to the price that Ami Dubois is on the exchanges, maybe I've gone not far enough or too far. Is it the Silks? What am I losing in my eyes? Oh, there he is. Ami Dubois here. You can see there, to lay is 180. So basically, where that extra value comes in on the shorter price or the more fancy one, so where I said those top 10 in the betting, that's where you're going to get the benefit of being able to back to lay on the exchanges. Once you start going down to the bigger priced and the less fancied horses, Betfair Exchange, because they take a smaller slice of the pie, or at least a smaller slice of the pool in terms of overround, you're going to struggle to be able to arb these or lay these back for the straight bets. So concept number 1, my suggestion could be you could back quite a few of these at the head of the market that are shorter on the exchanges. Admittedly, you need to have funds in your Betfair account to lay for the amount, so you need to have the amount for that liability. But you could play that way, and you could have a lot of horses running for you for free. You've obviously got the bonus of the place aspect as well on Bet365, so any of those horses that win, it's not only the few points difference you make there. So Burrows Saint example again, 17 on here, you'd win 170. On here you'd lay, you'd only lose 135, so you'd make £35 out of that. Plus, you'll have the place part of the horse as well. So admittedly, it's only 2 places, but who cares? If it wins, you're going to get placed anyway. So that'll be a fifth of the odds at 16s. So you're going to chuck in basically double that amount of profit. So it's going to be 60 odd quid you're going to get back in terms of profit for a no risk bet. Let's not forget, this is 0 risk. So maybe look at doing some arbitrary bets in there. That's one way of playing it. If you just want to bet normally and you just want to start backing some horses, then basically these each way extra is another way of thinking about it. As long as it's an each way bet, you will benefit of the half of your money back up to the stake of £125. So say there's some of these horses at much bigger prices that you might fancy. You can go all the way to 10 places with Bet365. That's monster. That is massive when you think about it. Now we'll look at a horse like Cloth Cap. Maybe there's question marks about his stamina. I don't think there is, but maybe there is. If you look at a horse like Cloth Cap, you see how short a price he is for 10 places compared to what he is to win the race. Now, that's not that much of a reduction. He's 5-1 to win the race, and he's 100-30 when you're taking the 10 places into consideration. That's because there's not a massive difference in value for the place side of things. But basically, this is almost starting to say to you that Cloth Cap, look, he's probably going to win this, bar incident. And the reason why I'm making that assumption is they're not fussed about him coming 10th, 9th, 8th, 7th, 6th. There's very little between those. Now, this is all price-driven, not individually horse-driven, but at the price that he is and percentage chance, they're just saying that, look, he should be winning this race bar an incident. That's a brave shout to making a Grand National. It doesn't always work out like that, but you've got the options in there. So if you wanted to, you could have a whole chunk on Cloth Cap. You could have £125 each way on Cloth Cap. Admittedly, you need to work out how you're going to stake it. You could deposit the £250 in your account. You could have £125 each way. £125 would be credited back to you, and then you'd withdraw that money. So it's cost you £125. You could go on the exchange and you could lay that horse for £125. You'll still have the place part of it anyway. You could go onto the place market and potentially lay that if you wanted to. But you can do things like that. So if you wanted to be bullish about a horse, you can do it. But these extended places, the main reason why I spilled all my way myself over to here is that you can back some horses at big place terms, but obviously you're getting a big reduction in the price. Now, the simplest way for me to explain this is we go to the standard place terms, 5 places, right? Let's see if I can actually make it work. So we'll just get to the 5 places there. So let's go down to a horse that I know that Daryl likes. We'll come on to that, and I'll talk about him and the ones that we talked about a little bit earlier. But you can get 66-1 about Alpha de Zobo to place 5 places. Now, if we were to double our chance to say, right, let's go all the way down to 10 places, and we look at Alpha de Zobo, he's 30-1. So admittedly, he's a tiny bit under, but he's about half the price with twice as many places. So that feels about right, doesn't it? That we're getting twice as many places, half the price feels about fair. But obviously, you can stake twice as much because you're getting half of your stake back. So if you deposited, say you wanted to have £25 each way on this horse, if you put in £50 and have £25 each way, they'll give you £25 back. You can withdraw that. It's only cost you £25. If you had that stake at 66-1, obviously you're going to win X amount. If you then doubled your stake because you're getting half of it back to back it at 30s, you're getting a little bit less because it's not quite half. You're getting about the same, although you're staking the same amount. So let's have a look at this, for example. So if I was to say that the unit stake was £25 each way on here, we'll get the calculator up just for good measure because, hey-ho, we'll do it. So it's 31 times your 25, 775 for the win purposes of it there. Now, because it's decimal, before we work out the quarter odd, you need to take the 1 off, which is your unit. So it's 7.5. We can add the 1 back in there. We can times this by 25. £212.50 back for your stake. So that's £25 win, that's £25 place. It will still only cost you £25 to strike that bet. Now, if we were talking traditional bookmakers, let's just imagine in the world where Bet365 weren't doing this concession, and we're going to take the 66-1 about him. To stake £25, you'd have to have £12.50 each way. You have half as much because you're not having it back. So if we were to look at that, we'll go 67 times £12.50 is £837.50 for the win. So you can see there it's slightly less on the old win front. If we then looked at the place side of things, so again we'll take the 1 decimal off to work out the place terms, and then we're going to add in the £12.50. You can see there that the place amount is £218.75. So you go down to here, it was £212.50 for the place, whereas it's £218.75 here. But we're not playing for 5 places here, are we? We're playing for 10 places. You've got twice as many places for your horse to place at a monster price, yet look at the difference there. It's it's ridiculous. So if we actually worked out the percentage difference between these two amounts by staking, the way that we've done it, the reduction in there, you're getting 97% of the place price that you would get ordinarily, but you're getting twice the amount of places to play in there. You're starting to get a bit of a concept of a way that you can play it. So whichever way you're inclined, you need to just look at, I think, maybe exploiting this each way extra aspects of it. So if you fancy something to win, you want to be sliding yourself up to this side and give yourself the increased prices. If you fancy a horse to place, you really should be going all the way down to 10 places because you're giving yourself twice as many places, but you're getting yourself around about 97%. Now, that was done on one horse, so obviously that percentage would change across different horses that are in there. But if you're backing a horse at a massive price to place, ultimately you're not thinking they're going to win the race. However, if they did go and win the race, you're only losing out a tiny, tiny, tiny bit on that win part of it for the massive extra value of these 10 places. So I just think that the risk-reward scenario, even though it's not quite that, your risk ratio is massively in your favour by doing that. Of course, you've got the option as well that if you fancy backing, like I said at the beginning, 10 horses, you back 20 horses if you want. You can just peel your stake about a little bit, can't you? You could have a fiver each way on a lot of horses. So basically, it's £250 is what will totally be staked because it's £125 on, £125 back. You could have £5 each way on 25 horses in the Grand National. Now, that's not me saying do that and it's going to guarantee you a profit, but you can play yourself across a number of horses to take full advantage of this Bet365 offer. I've got a restricted account with Bet365. Everything gets sent to the trader, but I'm still getting on for now. I've got another account at my disposal, which is fine and flying, and then I've got a third account that I can get myself involved with as well. Not saying that everyone's got those sort of things at their disposal, but if you have a few accounts, you can exploit this Bet365 scenario. So if you've got some cash and you fancy playing the arbitrary way, you can do that with Betfair exchanges. Just look at the prices that are on there, stick the bets on as you go. If you're just punting for the sake of punting and you just want to get the good value, the feeling of getting better value, then you don't need to arb it. You just stick your bets on. Again, look at maybe these shortening of place terms, and I wouldn't toy with the 3 or 4 places to boost the price up a tiny bit. Although you could look at the exchanges and you could work out what price you could play in at. I'd go all or nothing. I'd go the 2 places if you're looking for the win perspective and having the free each way place part of it in there anyway, or go all the way down to 10 places because you're getting a massive boost. Now, I know a lot of people will say, oh, Sky Bet are playing 8 places or whatever they're playing, and you could get the 66-1 with them anyway for an Alpha Des Obo. I get that. He might be a bigger price with somebody else. There may be better value with other bookmakers. So obviously go on Odds Checker, look at the different prices, look at the each way terms, spend a little bit of time working out what you may get paid out whichever way you're doing it. But from Bet365 and the way you can do it there, I've just shown you that you can get some monster value by either playing the win aspect by reducing the place terms or by using the extended place terms. And because you're getting half of your stake back, you get to stake twice as much, which ultimately means you're getting about the same return, but you're getting twice the places. That's as much as I want to talk about this for this. As I say, some of you will know how to bet. This will make sense. Some of you won't understand how to bet as much, and this might be a little bit confusing. Drop any comments below or go to my Facebook page, Chelt Mental, and send me a private message on there. I will answer any questions that come through to help you guys with your Grand National bets. But we'll now skip on to the race itself. I'm going to give you a quick run through of what I fancy in here, and this might give you a little bit of a clue to the horses that are worth backing. I'm going to go as quickly as I can because time sensitive, no one wants a long clip. Cloth Cap, £14 well in. What that means to the average Joe is the weights for the Grand National are published a little bit in advance. Basically, that's done so people know roughly which horses may make the cut and get into the race, and also about the ability of the horses. Some of them will run, if they run more recently and they run well, it puts them up the pecking order for the same mark. There's lots and lots of things that are done, but the weights are published in advance. If your horse is to run in between the weights being published and the National, if they win, their revised mark is not taken in consideration. There is no penalty system for the Grand National like other handicap races. So normally in the normal world, if you were to back a horse in a handicap, if it ran in between the mark being given, there would be a penalty to carry. There isn't that case in here. So Cloth Cap's official rating is 162 now over chase fences, which is what, although the Grand National fences are not traditional, it's classed as chase. And he's given a mark of 148 for this Grand National. So he is £14, a stone well in. Now, over this length of distance, you could argue that being £14 well in isn't as valuable as being £14 well in over a 2-mile race. But even if you were to halve it, because it's over 4 miles this race, he's still half a stone well in. He still is running off a mark that next time he runs will be £14 higher. So he deserves to be where he is. He comes in here in good form. He likes the good ground. He genuinely has a favourite's chance. As far as I'm concerned, if this horse doesn't have a serious mistake in him, or bad luck, which we know can easily happen in a Grand National, he should be there or thereabouts. Burrows Saint, Willie Mullins, Paul Townend, the top jockey for Willie Mullins, is injured at the moment. He's not come over, but the son, Patrick Townend, who is just as good as most professional jockeys, will be taking the ride. Now, this horse has won a handful of races that are of decent calibre. So we can go back to here where he won the Irish Grand National in April 2019. Obviously, we had COVID last year, so lots of things weren't happening. He won that off of a mark of 144. Now, Irish ratings are slightly different to the UK ratings. You can normally add on £5 as a minimum to suggest they should be a little bit what the UK tax would be essentially. You can see since then that he's running some other races, and these lines of form are fairly solid. Now, average Joe would look at these and not be so sure with the numbers. It's not been winning, example. I mean, it did win there. That was in a different discipline. That was back over hurdles, but it's been running in better form. So although it was winning that race of 144, its mark's gone up to 156 from an Irish perspective, and over here is 156 for a British rate. And so, as far as I'm concerned, he's off a fairly nice mark, albeit he's not like Cloth Cap where he's got bundles in hand based on recent form. But Burrows Saint's a nice horse, should be there or thereabouts. Again, it's jumping game, but I'm talking about a second favourite in here. We'll slide our way down a few of the horses. Rather than getting too in-depth about some of these, we'll just skim over them a little bit, but I want to give them all a little bit of a mention. So Any Second Now's a nice horse. Last time out winner. Mark Walsh is on board. Mark Walsh, for those who don't know, is these colours here, these silks, the JP McManus, the golden green hoops. Mark Walsh is ultimately the guy who gets first dibs on any of these horses. So the horse that he's riding, in theory, would suggest that that is the most fancied of that particular ownership. Now, Manila Times is also in those silks. Henry de Bromhead, the trainer. Rachel Blackmore is his stable jockey. So she gets first dibs of all of his rides. Although, in theory, with a JP McManus ownership, Mark Walsh has the deal with the owner to get first refusal. So in this instance, Rachel Blackmore might not have got first choice to ride Manila Times, but Rachel Blackmore is probably a better jockey than Mark Walsh currently. So she could have got first dibs anyway. She's going to be well fancied and she's going to be well supported because of the fact that Rachel Blackmore's on and she had such a good Cheltenham. Kimberlite Candy's one that's been tipped up by quite a few, has got good form. You can see lots of 1s and 2s against its name, and it did that. There's another race at Aintree over the same sort of fences called the Betcher Chase. Now, he's running there. I'm going to pull that up. I say Betcher. It's Beecher Chase. I call it Betcher. We can see in here. So we go back to December, that Betcher Chase. He was second behind Via Leon Rouge. So he was well beaten in the race, but it's good experience over those fences, and he ran really, really well. We can also look at some other horses that were in there that may be running in this race later on. When we skim down the field, you'll see what's happened with different horses in there. Like, you can go and have a look at the form, but Via Leon Rouge absolutely bolted up, hacked up in that race. Now, we can go back to the year prior, which is again the Betcher Chase or Beecher Chase. He was second in that race again, but you'll see the difference in weight. He was 137 there. He's £16 higher in this renewal and was beaten by a lot further in there as well now. So has he got as much to play with weight-wise? I don't think. But he does like the fences, we know that much. And again, we can look at the form of this and we'll see some other horses that may have tried these national fences. So LeBroy was in both those races, but you can see horses like Alpha de Zobo in here that lost a lot of place in the run-in, stayed on towards the end, but obviously this race is over a slightly different trip. So this is over 3 Mile 2. The Grand National is another mile longer. It's 33% longer than this Beecher Chase. So that's some course form that we can look in there. You can see why Kimberlite Candy's fancied. We'll see how it goes. Now, we're down to Secret Reprieve, a 14-1 poke. You'll see that it's got an R next to his name, R42. At the time of recording, this is 9:20 in the morning. By 1 o'clock today, if any of the 40 runners have not been taken out because they can't run, they're not well, injuries, stone bruises, all those sort of things that can happen last minute, then Secret Reprieve will not be running in the National. He needs 2 horses to come out. We have 4 reserves held up in here, but by 1 o'clock the day before, they need to have got in. So Secret Reprieve has a real chance, won the Welsh National, probably still got some improvement in off his mark, but he may not run. So when you're looking at this video, just basically wait and see what happens with those entries by 1 o'clock to see if they manage to get themselves in. Discorama, he's a horse that almost won the 4-miler at Cheltenham a couple of years back. That's a race where LeBroy, the horse that you've seen in the Beecher Chase there, form lines, won that race. It goes back a couple of years until that happened. He hasn't run the national fences like some of these other horses had over the Beecher Chase, but this horse is fairly unexposed as an 8-year-old. Now, because he's 8, you'd expect him to have maybe run a little bit more than he has, but that's just is what it is. He's had wind surgery here, which is normally a clue that the horse has been having an issue with their breathing, which may explain why they didn't particularly see their races out. And he's coming in this race with some form. Now, again, the beauty of looking into him and the beauty of this particular race is that lots of the horses will run against each other. So you can see Milan Native here that he was beaten a short head by, and you can see in the comments there it says that he was just held, so he got fairly close to him. On the weight perspective there, he was giving this horse £4. He's 149 rated on that mark. When we look at the British rating here, he's 149 rated. If we quickly just skim down to see Milan Native, that runs off the same mark as that horse, but on that day, when it beat at short head, Discorama had to give it £4. So that would explain why this horse is 16s and the other horse is a bit of a bigger price. So Discorama probably got a bit of a squeak, to be fair, stays all day. Farclas won the juvenile hurdle at Cheltenham, the Triumph hurdle a few years back. Now, that's the same race that Tiger Roll won before he won a Grand National. And it wasn't quite as simple as that. He didn't win it and then go and win a Grand National. But I just mean that 2-mile horses, as much as Farclas doesn't have form over this sort of trip, it doesn't mean that they can't stay. He looks like he's going to be unlocking improvement over a further trip. But when we do look at his form, you will see that the furthest he's ever raced is 3 miles. And in that particular race there, when we look at the comments, he kept on in the running, but he was no match for the first 2. So that would allude that he might be able to stay a bit further. If we look at the earlier comments in there, pulled hard. If you're running for 3 miles and you're pulling really hard early on, you're exerting a lot of energy. So I think the clues are there to suggest this horse will stay further. He ran really well at Cheltenham recently, stayed on nicely, but again, always held. It's a long, long way to go extra on top of 3 miles to stay this trip. But Farclas has got a lot to like about him. Bit of back class as well with the fact that he is that Grade 1 winner over hurdles. You can see why he's the price that he is. He's another one of those that if stamina is the problem rather than jumping, then those 10 places we could get each way on Bet365, there may only be 10 finishes in the Grand National. I know there's 40 runners in there, but half the field are not going to complete at least. So basically, if you can get your horse to get round, regardless of the price, you're probably going to fall into that top 10 places. So Farclas could be one for that. Of course, there'll be a reduction in his price. Let's just have a look for him as an example of what he would be. So he's 20-1 to win the race. I was talking with Alfred Azoba that it was about half before. If we go down to Farclas, look, he's 11-1 to place. So you're getting a bit more than half the price, but you're getting the 10 places up for grabs. Spitballing again, I know, but there we are. Just have a quick skim on Betfair while I was looking at it. You see there, 25-1 to lay. So again, if we were to slide him the other way around and you're thinking, do you know what, Farclas, maybe we'll have a look at him as the little win poke. 25 would be the price to lay. He's 29 on there. So you could back him. You'd make £40 for every £10 you put on to win, plus you've got your place part, which at that price is going to be the same amount pretty much as you'd get for your wins. You'd probably make £80 for every tenner you put on by laying him on the exchanges. So again, horses like this, if you like them, you've got options of how to play them. Magic of Light, she's a great mare. She was close to Tiger Roll in 2019. She is an older mare now. She's probably the one that benefited the least by the race being cancelled last year because of COVID, because she probably would have had a chance there, but she will be popular. Annabelle Fly, she stayed on to finish 3rd in a Gold Cup a while back. She will be popular. Bristol Demai hasn't run in this race before. Always looked like a horse that would appreciate it. He will be popular. Probably wants, well, I say probably wants worse ground. He's got form at Haydock, which is a similar track to Aintree, and he has won on all types of ground. People say that he's a bit of a mudlark, which means he wants heavy ground. That may not be the case, but he is carrying top weight, so he will be giving weight away to every other runner in this race. Potter's Corners are near first-time blinkers. That could be a clue to unlock some improvement. Acapella Bourgeois, when we looked at some of the other horses earlier, we talked about Burrows Saint. He was behind Acapella Bourgeois, so that comes in with winning form. That's the same trainer as Burrows Saint as well. Canelo, you could probably go back a little bit and look at some form on him. Admittedly, recently not so good form, but you could make a bit of a case. Class Conti probably wouldn't be up to winning this. Ruby Walsh, the great jockey, has suggested that Class Conti could be one from an each-way terms. He thinks he'll get outpaced early on, but he thinks he'll be staying on at the death. So one that's going to probably get round. One, again, you could play on those enhanced places because why not take 10 places up for grabs? You could obviously shorten it a little bit, increase your price, but we're not talking about taking risks here. We're talking about playing horses. Lord de Mesnil, he's got some decent form, a recent winner, so again, another one that could be popular. Milan Native, more than anything with Milan Native, you'd struggle to find anything when you look at the form to suggest this horse could win, but when the weights came out, Gordon Elliott said on that evening, because they asked him about Tiger Roll, the horse that's not not running in this race, he said Milan Native looked like he was on a nice weight. When a trainer makes a comment like that, a reference to a horse's weight, and we know that this was the target for the race, you do need to listen. Jamie Codd's an amateur Irish jockey on there, but he is an absolute beast of a jockey. He's known as the Cod Father. He's as good as any professional on there, and especially over fences, he's worth his weight in gold. Sumneck, first reserve, so he's number 41. He needs some horses to come out, but people are liking that horse, and he ran well in the cross country at Cheltenham, which is a race that can be a nice pointer into into the Grand National. So Sumneck, you can see why people liked him. Taking risks. This horse beat Cloth Cap, the horse I'm talking about that should win this bar an incident. He beat him in the Scottish Grand National in 2019, and he was only giving him £1, or there was a pound swing between them. He's given that horse £2 today, and he beat him by a couple of lengths. So you'd think on that line of form, he's got as much chance as Cloth Cap. The big difference is Cloth Cap is now a 9-year-old. He was 7 when they faced each other. Taking Risk was a 10-year-old. Is now a 12-year-old. So there's a 2-year difference in there. Taking Risk probably on the decline. Cloth Cap probably on the incline. But Taking Risks, we know that he stays. He likes this good ground, so he could be one at a big price as well. Chris's team for Henry de Bromhead. They don't really know this horse's trip. I don't think he's a national type. Definitely Red. I don't think he's a national type. Give Me a Copper's a horse that I do quite like, more on my sucker for. He doesn't always put it all in, but he could be a nice type. Lakeview Lad, we know that these famous silks, Trevor Hemmings, the owner, he loves the Grand National. Mr. Malarkey's got a potential case to be made for him. OK Corral's got a potential case to be made for him, although Nicky Henderson horses that run over further than 3 miles tend to not be so good. I don't think he's as good with these plodding, staying types. Shattered Love, 2.5 mile mare she won at Cheltenham. They long talked about her being a Gold Cup type. This is obviously a lot further, but she does jump for fun. Leon Rouge, we looked at him. He won the Becher Chase or Beecher Chase. He's obviously up in weight now, and he is a 12-year-old. He has run in the National before and not quite done it. There's loads of horses that are in here with chances. Yalarenki for Bryony Frost would be a great story for them. Balco de Flo, recently sold from Gigginstown Dispersal. Black Lion, Darren Yates bought this horse for a lot of money to run him in a Grand National. He got a back issue after. Just goes to show that these horses are not machines. There's loads of horses that have potentially got chances in here. We've squeezed our way down quite a way in here to look at different horses. I'm going to just show you 2 more now, and then I'm going to leave you to it. Thank you very much for watching if you have. I'm going to finish off these bits anyway, but, hopefully you've enjoyed me talking a bit of horses. I've got plenty of other content to do with Aintree and other bits, so like, subscribe. But this horse here, He's one that looks a little while back that he always wanted further. So you can see here, there's a Sandown race, which is classed as the Bet365 Gold Cup Handicap Chase, but it's 3 mile 5. Away from the National, I think it's one of the longest races that's not a Welsh National, Grand National, Midlands National. That was on good ground, and he absolutely bolted up. There's some back class form here that some of you would understand, some of you wouldn't, but Le Bagawa is a really good Grade 1 winning mare, or at least she was a while back. Then he's had a couple of bumper he's been, so these are races on the all-weather that are on the flat. More just for the fact of fitness, I suspect. And then he's run at Kempton recently. And again, I feel like it was just a spin out for the sake of a day out. Now, he has got some back form where he's had some other horses that are in this race behind him. I think the weight is a worry, but I do think this horse will like this discipline, and I think he'll like the ground. So he is one at a very big price that if you were looking at backing a few, and maybe backing a few each way, I'd say Talk is Cheap is very much worth having a go. He was probably 16s for this race last year, I think, or the year before. I think it was last year. There's enough about this horse to suggest that he's probably a little bit big. So I think Talk is Cheap's one at a price. Alpha de Zoba, I was talking to Daryl Carter earlier of gg.co.uk. They've got a YouTube channel, some decent content that's on there as well. But he's in here, and I think he's got a bit of a chance. You can make a bit of a case for him. So he's got the back class. Alpha de Zoba is a really, really nice horse anyway. He's always been borderline a 160s horse, which in horse racing is top level. He's got form over these fences. So we go back to that Beecher Chase here. If you watch this race back, if you're that way inclined, he was there. He lost a lot of ground from the end of the last fence, probably the last 2 to the finish line, where it just got done a little bit for speed. That won't be a problem in this race. He also ran 4th in the cross country recently, which I've already touched on is a nice form line into this race, albeit over a little bit shorter. And then when he ran in the Grand National, We'll go back a little bit further here in April 2018, which was Tiger Roll's first victory. He fell, and he fell at the 15th. I mean, there was still a way to go, but he fell back then, but he was still travelling quite nicely, and that was on really, really bad ground. You can see since then he's run on good ground, and he's run against some nice horses and run really well. He actually won on good to firm, so the quicker surface will probably suit him. That's a nice comeback run there. Admittedly, the 2 runs before were pulled up, but you can forget those because he came back to form-ish there. Even before that was a bit out of form, but that Acapella Bourgeois horse that we talked about in here, he was not far behind that horse. I mean, 15 lengths is quite a way, but he wasn't too far behind it. He was sent off 7-4 favourite. The ground probably didn't particularly suit. He is not in the form of old. There is no doubt about that. But if he fancies it, he could have a go. And as the Racing Post comments will say here, Cheltenham Cross Country Fourth was a reminder that he remains a force if the mood takes him. So again, not saying he's the one to do, but I think if he gets round, those 10 places that are up for grabs, there won't be that many finishers. You're going to get 30 to 1. We saw with a stake in what you can get back in terms of a return. For £25, you could get £212 back just for him finishing 10th in the Grand National. So he's a horse that Darryl, I know, likes quite a bit, and I'm quite happy to follow him in on that. So he'll be one that I'll be backing in here as well. Now, there's plenty of other horses that have got good chances in here. It is a wide open race, so feel free to do whatever you want. If you want to pick names, colours, numbers, hats, whatever it is, do what you want. Obviously, if you're putting bets on for other people, by betting with Bet365, half of what they stake you're going to get back. You could be a good moral person and say to someone, you can have a little bit extra on. So if someone wants to have £20 each way on a horse, you could say to them, I'll get it on Bet365 for you. You've only got to give me 20 quid. So you could pass it forward or pay it forward to other people. You can boost those prices, as I say, by reducing the terms. You can reduce the prices by increasing the place terms, but ultimately you're still getting good value. I know other bookmakers will be offering concessions with bits and pieces, but I just think that Bet365 are leaps ahead. The caveat with changing these place terms is you're not going to get best odds guaranteed. So if you were to back the normal traditional numbers, you would get best odds guaranteed. If you back it at 10s, it went off at 20s, you'd get the 20 to 1. If you take these change in prices, you will not get that. So if you're backing horses to trade positions, then make sure you're getting out of them straight away. If you're just betting for the sake of betting, then just back them and just go with it. Don't beat yourself up too much if the prices change. Obviously, when there's big price horses in here, if they go from 33s and they go out, they might go out 40s, 50s. The price does go up quite big, but just don't beat yourself up about it. Stick the bets on. Remember, it is a bit of a novelty race. Gamble responsibly. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments or send them on the Facebook page. And best of all, be lucky. I will see you on the other side. Good night.